Okay, so it's live for me? Live for everyone?
Yep.
Hello.
Okay, welcome back to Worldhoppers, the collaborative booktube channel where AdSense revenue and revenue from merch, which Jess is wearing, all goes to charity. So watch it, buy it, subscribe, do the things. It's a good thing to do. Today we're doing part 2 of like how Booktube has changed and affected us as readers. Is that what this is called? I think that's what this is called.
It's close enough.
That part second.
That sounds familiar.
So we're trying to remember what we did and didn't discuss last time so that we don't tread over familiar territory. So I believe where we're starting today is with something kind of spicy. How has Booktube ever made you feel self-conscious or ashamed about something you were reading or something that you own? So if we want to go around, yeah, you know what I mean.
Is that starting with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clockwise.
I wouldn't say ashamed, but I've definitely felt self-conscious before. I remember when I did like one of my best books of the year video, and Ninth House was in that video, and I'd already filmed the video. It was already edited, and I never get on Twitter, so it like just so happens that I don't know what it was. This time I logged into Book Twitter, and everybody was talking about Ninth House and just how there should have been more trigger warnings in it. And people were really going in about that book. And I was like, oh my God, do I post this now? Like, it's already done and filmed. I don't know what to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just went for it. I'm like, it is what it is. I read the book. I enjoyed it. So it's just gonna go up. But I've never felt ashamed, but definitely there was that moment of like, oh, well, this is awkward.
Yeah.
How about you, Steph?
Yeah.
I don't really feel ashamed. Like, I also hate the idea that there's guilty pleasure reads because you can just like what you like and that should be fine. But I do feel like there is a sense of like pressure to like certain books. And so it makes me feel self-conscious when I don't like a popular book because I don't want people to be like, well, you should give that series a chance. 7 books, it gets really good. And I'm like, but I just don't like it. Yeah, so I feel like that's
slog.
So that's like the time when I feel a bit more self-conscious about what I'm reading is when I don't like something because I don't want to completely roast people's books, but otherwise I don't really. Yeah, but otherwise I don't really.
How about you, Jeff?
Okay. Yes. A couple times, like similar to Tori, when the latest thing with Sarah J. Maas popped up, I literally was like planning a reading vlog on her latest one that someone has sent me, and I'm like, dang. I mean, I did it. I talked about the book and reviewed it anyway. I didn't do a reading vlog, but I was like, oh, come on, right now. And so it just, when there's like drama, you're like, because people like to put the sins of the author on people.
Yeah.
But then there's been other books, like I did read some monster smut, and I just didn't know how to talk about it. So I talked about it, but I felt like people probably like, why did she keep like giggling? But I was like, it was great, but I just didn't have. I was like, I don't have any illustrious words to give to this book here. But it just was a good time. So when I kind of get into like the erotica, which I read some this
was a fascinating examination of like what I'm into.
Yeah. I'm like, this should dive deep into my kinks. So yeah, this month when I'm going to do my wrap up, I'm like, we're going to talk about that, but not like ashamed. I don't know.
You're like more like hyper aware of it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
like when you're not creating content, you don't have to tell anybody. You just read and you don't have to explain it to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the book is about, monsters and vampires and water demons.
But I feel like that goes into the whole, like, there is kind of a pressure of talking about every book that you read and like explaining it really well and having an analysis. And sometimes I just like a book and that's it.
Yeah. It's like I read it was good.
No additional thought.
Yeah. This is what I do in my wrap ups already. Like, I don't know. I'm literally just like, yeah, it was good. It's fine. I like this, but...
You see that meme of that little like orange kitten that's like sniffing the wine and is like, this is a red. Yeah.
Yep. That's me.
Well, how about you, Izzy?
See, it's hard as a romance reader because like we already get like the shit and stick all the time, and people are just like, you should feel bad, and I'm like, I literally don't care. Do not care. No shame. The only like thing that I would be ashamed of, and I told you this before, this was that if somebody like picked up my really filthy manga I have downstairs, it is like straight up hentai. If they came over, I think I would turn beet red and like grab it out of their hands and like run away with it. Like, you cannot have this.
But I don't think you can blame that on Booktube. But
I can't blame it on Booktube. So like that's the only shame I have really is like if somebody picked up something. But Booktube wise, I don't know if it's because I'm in the romance sphere. So we just like literally, I mean, right now we're talking about a Minotaur book, y'all. Like, and milking. Like
y'all talk about. Look it up.
We're just like, yeah, so I read this book and it had these XYZ monsters in it, and wow, they all went to town.
Even in Romance Landia, though, there's authors that get in trouble. So like kind of like what Jess alluded to, like you can feel self-conscious because like, oh, you really like that book, but like turns out that author was like, oh, the worst.
Yeah.
Most of those authors I already avoid. It's the good news. But yeah, I mean, there are times, I guess, slightly like I know I posted a video, right? Like I'd filmed it, edited, scheduled, and then the TJ Klune stuff happened with the schools, and I was like, I don't have time to go back in and fix this. So I left a comment. I was like, listen, I'm very aware of what's going on. Mm-hmm. This was filmed like days before this happened. This is not okay. Here's resources. You know, like that's about the only time though, like that I've got a close call. I don't know. I'm like Steph with the read what you want to read. Don't let other people bully you about it because it's fine. Like if you like it, that's all that matters. It's your reading life. Don't let people on BookTube or Book Talk or wherever tell you that you're less of a reader for it.
Book Talk is wild.
For me, I think like the only like, and I didn't feel like ashamed of it, but like the Sword of Truth series was like my first foray into adult fantasy before I ever like knew the book community or even read more widely in the genre, and like that got me hooked and made me want to read more adult fantasy, so I always felt really, really warmly towards it, and then come to discover BookTube and Bookstagram, and it's just like one of those like universally everyone agrees this is terrible, and like you have a license to crap on it because like everyone's like, oh yeah, but that's an objectively bad book series, and I'm like, I really liked it and it got me hooked on fantasy. So like I just took the Tyrion Lannister approach of like wearing your weakness like armor because no one is going to let you forget it. So I just made a whole video about why like I like it and like you can not like it, but I think it's fine.
But that's like recently because the Shadow and Bone series got adapted. Like the Shadow and Bone, the Grisha trilogy was the trilogy that actually got me into this community, and it got me back into reading and like reading YA fantasy because I had never really read YA before, and I really loved my experience reading it. Obviously, when I look at it, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much if it wasn't my first reading experience for YA fantasy, and now everybody talks about how horrible it is, and I'm just like, I still love it.
You can love the thing and say, yes, I know the problem. Yeah. I love it.
I just need to know, are you a Melina shipper?
No. But I don't ship the Darkling and her either.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Never mind.
Yeah.
As long as you're not going to be like, the Darkling's way better than Mal, and I'd be like, we need to talk.
No. Well, that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts about that one.
Yeah.
Showgirl was so much better. So, yeah.
Okay, so for the most part, we just like own it. It's basically we're like, nah, we don't care. Well, this kind of like the next question kind of ties into that. Like, has BookTube helped you feel more comfortable with just loving what you love? Going in a circle again.
I think I have the best response for this yet.
Okay, we can come back to you.
Come back to me with this one.
I'm gonna honestly no. It doesn't make me more comfortable with my reading, especially because of, like Jess actually said, where people like to put the sin on the reader. when something happens with an author. And I try to avoid problematic things as much as possible, like not supporting those authors. But there are books that I've read already and talked about. And so sometimes I feel a little bit of shame that I didn't see the problems in it. But at the same time, like, I'm also aware of my limitations as a person and what I understand and don't understand in a book because of lived experiences. So I think I learn from those situations, obviously, and like grow as a reader, but it doesn't make me more comfortable with sharing what I'm reading on the internet, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, I feel that. I feel like yes and no. I guess you can take. So before Booktube, I really didn't read like nonfiction, and then I started. Well, like I would see like Mara and like actually more people reading nonfiction, and so that kind of encouraged me in that way to that nonfiction wasn't this big, scary, boring thing.
So, smart people.
Yeah. And then I also realized that I needed to change the way I read it in audio, audio and physical, or just audio is really my way, but just trying to get through a nonfiction. I was like, no, girl. So in that way, like I've become more comfortable with nonfiction, but like talking, I mean, I could relate to Steph and just, I still don't consider myself like a reviewer. I'm like, things happened. It was slow. Like I don't have a good vocabulary. I'm not well versed. Like some people, I'm like, yeah, oh wow, yeah. You sold me that, and I'm like, so there was this girl, and
so no nuance, just vibes.
Yeah, I'm like, so I can like kind of tell, especially no spoilers. Like I feel like that's an art and not what I've mastered. So in that way, I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly. Like I don't have a problem for the most part talking about books that I read, but I don't feel super confident in speaking about them. But then on the other hand, I have become more comfortable and like confident in reading nonfiction. So that was
I agree with you about the not feeling confident about speaking about a book or like trying to give somebody a synopsis of a book, because sometimes I get different things out of it. So I'm talking about it and people are like, when did that happen?
Yeah, like,
I don't know.
It did, I promise.
It happened somewhere in there. I mean, I feel the same way pretty much. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't view myself as a reviewer. I view myself as just like sharing my reading life. I guess a bookish influencer, if you will, more than a like reviewer. I don't have a better word for it, unfortunately. I wish I did. But...
I just call it book reports for funsies.
I mean, it's, and like that's really most of it for me too. It's like, I don't know. I'm always just like, I am not like, I don't know, fluent in the review language that I see some people use, and I'm like, nope, that's not what you're getting from my channel. I'm like, they did the sexies and it was great. That's where I'm at. I'm like, loved the banging in this one. It was great.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about like spoilers and like that kind of thing, and I've realized that it never occurs to me to like actually tell anyone what the plot of a book is when I review it. And so like I don't even try to make them non-spoiler. I'm like, if you want the like blurb, go read the back of the book. Go read the Goodreads. Like I'm not here to tell you the summary. That's been done. I'm here to tell you what I thought about it.
An important skill, like for people not to rehash the entire plot summary, because I'm like, I can go read this on Amazon, Goodreads, Bookshop.
But then I've also heard complaints about book reviews where they're like, they didn't even say one thing about what happened in it. And I'm like, I never say even one thing about what happened in it. I just told you how I felt about it. Oh no.
Yeah. Everyone is different. I follow one Reddit subreddit about books, and occasionally I'll see someone post a question about like, why are there no booktubers who do actual like, there's always a certain kind of question. I'm like, those people probably exist. You just have to look for, but they're like, why do people, the recent one I saw was something about like people not doing good reviews. They're like, they just gave a basic summation of what happened in the story. And I'm like, don't do that. So yeah.
Yeah. I was like, why is my review 5 minutes and someone else's is 25? And I'm like, well, I just went right to being like, so I hated it. And like, you want to know what it's about? Go look it up.
I mean, I don't feel like Booktube makes me any more or less comfortable with the things I read. I mean, I guess in some capacity read like science fiction and fantasy, but I think just the longer I've had my channel, what I enjoy reading in those like different subgenres has evolved with the course of my channel. So I would just, yeah, I mean, I think on that level of comfort, that's where I fall. But yeah.
For feeling more comfortable, I think the only thing I can say that I feel more comfortable now because of Booktube, sort of in a roundabout way, is that like before, if I was just reading by myself and like I didn't like a book, but it was a well-regarded book or people generally has really positive reviews, then I would just assume, because I go through life assuming that I'm wrong. So I just would be like, I guess I'm not smart enough for it, or like I missed it, and it's me and it's not the book. But like now, like being bold enough to like actually say that I didn't like a popular book, and then hearing in comments like validation, people being like, I agree with you and it's not good, or like I also didn't like it, then I've like grown into being comfortable with the fact that just because it's popular doesn't mean I'm wrong if I don't like it.
Yeah.
That does help a lot on books. I feel like you get a nice echo chamber, like a good echo chamber of like, hey, I also didn't like that. And you're like, yeah, I'm not alone.
I mean, it's not really an echo chamber if you post a negative review for a really popular book. True. And then the people who comment are not.
I don't talk about the romance book. I absolutely hate
your video.
They get mad at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
I guess I've also gotten more comfortable with people hating me.
You know what though? Like there's a freedom in that. I'm just being like, I don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh well.
It's my favorite thing in life right now. I'm just like, you don't have to like me. I don't care.
But I'm always just like, why are you watching my content?
Yeah,
Go
so
live
weird.
your life.
That's the other thing.
That's the part I don't get. But
they have to let it be known though before they leave your video.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite is if it was a long video and then they're like, well, I watched this whole thing, so now I get to tell you. I'm like, no, I made you. You could.
You could exit it out.
This is like a Clockwork Orange situation where we forced your eyes open and made you watch it. You chose to watch it. That's on you. I think we kind of talked about this last time, and I think the answer was yes.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah. Unless someone wants to speak up and say no, they spend less money now.
No. I mean, I like had all my the majority of my shelves before my Booktube channel, because like I found Bookstagram and then I was like, hold up, look at these shelves, and started
all the props.
So, yeah, I did take like a break when we moved over here because there's no like English bookstores near, and so I was just mostly reading from the library and would only buy the books I really loved. So then getting back on Booktube, I'm like, well, and so I bought more and started back buying more, but not necessarily just because like when I started Booktube, because Bookstagram, I don't want to talk about it. The merch and stuff that I feel like I spend less just like buying books, at least for Booktube, because Bookstagram had my coins. Like, I was like, ooh, bookmark, ooh, print, candle, mug.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I remember you talking about those candles.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Book sleeves. I was like, I have 10, but I need more.
I have so many book sleeves,
but I've got
like
a stack of them.
I love a good book sleeve. Same.
Yeah, I don't even use
and I don't want to
and I
damage
still
them.
have
And
a
the
stack.
point is to protect your book with it. But I'm like, what do I use to protect the book sleeve?
Exactly. They're so pretty.
My cat literally uses my book sleeves as a bed because I don't use them.
Maybe I should try those on my extras. Thank you. I have a strategy now.
I love that. Yeah, the merchandise, the bookish stuff. I was like, oh my God.
I still have
Etsy
candles that
had
I'm
that
trying to
one.
burn through that I got.
But then I still feel like if it's like a favorite one, I'm like, but I can't get it again. But I know the
Exactly.
will fade if I don't. And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
There's some I can't burn.
But then
Nicholas,
again,
the
the
things
scent
you
will
buy.
fade. And I'm just like, well, what if then I'll never experience it because like I waited too long?
Burn it halfway.
It's so hard.
Burn it
Use
sparingly.
the things you buy, please. Yes, you can. I believe in you. I believe in you both. You can do it.
Not using. That's why you buy special editions of books and a reading copy.
Exactly.
You don't read the
That's just
special
why
editions.
I read digitally, and then I buy the books I love. Perfect.
I do that
They're
too.
pristine then. Nothing touches them.
Oh, but I love a floppy.
Oh my God, I was so
Yeah.
stressed. When, like, so I went to Howler Fest, which was like the launch event for the new Red Rising book, which was the beginning of the new like spin-off trilogy. And Howlerfest happened like a few days before the book was even due to be released. So we all had our copies early by a few days. And Iron Gold, the Naked book, is pure white. And like this was this copy that's signed and personalized by the author because I went to the event and I wanted to start reading it immediately because I had it early. But then I was like sitting there holding it, like washed my hands like 10 times. This like perfect white book. Signed, and I'm like delicately like turning the pages. And I was like, I can't handle this. I need
cannot craft the spine. I've done that where like I just read on the page and I'm like, this is
I just read on a Kindle, y'all. It's great. I just like upside down, hanging out
because I had it early. So like, this is my only option.
Just saying, it solves a lot of
the struggles, man.
Take a picture of it with your phone and then like zoom and read.
I'd have to touch it and open it to do that.
Low key, Izzy, I've actually done that before. You can pick like screenshots of my pages so like I could read.
I love this. I mean, it's a good plan. No judgment.
Great. I love it.
Those were dark times.
I mean, we kind of touched on this last time too. It's also just like you become aware of things to spend your money on. It's not that like you knew about it before and you weren't motivated to, and now you're pressured into it. It's just like I didn't even know this existed, and now I need it.
Yes. Me and my 5 library cards. I may not be buying as many physical books, but boy, am I buying a lot of library access.
I love it.
Fine. It's worth it.
I think we didn't really do this, and I don't. Anyway, well, that's. How do we feel about this one? Anyone?
You're just like, yep.
So I can start. Like, I just feel like it's totally case by case because like to paint a broad stroke and to say that Booktube expects too much. I mean, like every comment is so different. Like you get comments from people who are like, oh, I love what you do and that's so amazing. And you're like, yeah, what I do is amazing. And other comments who are like, if you want to make it as a book reviewer, and you're like, oh, like, I don't like Booktube as a whole, I can't say Booktube treats me any kind of way. Like the individual people that participate in Booktube like run the gambit from like incredibly like your cheerleaders to like people who you're like, oh, you have some problems that you're taking out on me right now. So like that's how I feel about it.
I mean, I'll talk, and I bet Jess is probably going to agree with some of what I say. I think sometimes, like, as people who cover drama, there's a lot of expectation on us to constantly know what's going on without the thought process behind the mental load we carry, basically, in doing so. And, like, I only cover romance. So, like, I'll see someone, I'm like, not my problem. Jessica's handle that. It's great. It's great. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that one. But I think sometimes people just, like, expect me to know everything that's going on sometimes. And I'm like, I am one human. I can only do so much. Also, some months I'm like, and I only do it monthly. I'm not Jess over here who's doing it, like, weekly. I was like, some weeks or months, I'm like, I don't have the capacity to sit here and tell you about how terrible this racist white lady is again, like the 5 more that we found this month. And I'm just like, you know, I do it.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah, I'm like, but wait, we found more of them. Shocking turn of events.
In a shocking turn of events, we found more.
Big surprise. But like, I feel like there's an expectation sometimes when you cover stuff like that, or you do speak out vocally, like about things that like every single thing that comes across my timeline, I have to say something. When in reality, like you also shouldn't just boost everything. Like you shouldn't just create the echo chamber of the cute Instagram graphics about XYZ problem, where your story feed is all everyone posting the same one. And everyone's just skipping it. Nobody's, actually investigating what's going on. So I feel like it's a weird balance. I feel like sometimes that I have to juggle there. But I can't say again, it's not a Booktube as a whole. It's like we're a weird subset with a different expectation at times. Mm-hmm. I think.
100%. Everything you said. And then, it just depends on the people, like Lana said, and especially like comments. So sometimes it's just like, I love everything you do. And then it's like, some things like, oh, another video about this or another, you know, if when there's like a popular trend, like when people, I haven't, and I still want to, I see it and I'm like, I wanted to do that, but now people are like, it's like reacting to like 1-star reviews of your favorite books or something like that. And it's like, cause they're fun, or like there's Booktube staples, and then there's the pressure to create unique content, but then unique content doesn't get the views that other things. So like,
but then everyone's yelling at you because you're not making unique
content.
What do you want?
The thing about Booktube is that, like, for the most part, not to say there isn't any unique content, but like Booktube, what makes your content unique is just your opinions and your take on it. It's not the video concept necessarily.
Yeah.
Again, there's some creative people. I don't want to say there isn't, and there's some. That's how we get new staple content, because someone has a new idea, like reacting to 1-star reviews, and now that becomes a new staple. But again, why people click on it isn't because it's an innovative concept. They want to hear your reactions about your favorites, and like, you are what makes your content unique, not the like video concept.
I mean, it's a personality game, and I mean, people want to admit that to an extent, right? You gotta like the people's personality that you watch. I would think. I mean, I can't say that completely because then you have all the hate watchers, but you know, in general, you're gonna watch somebody because you like their personality, you think they're fun.
I usually don't reply to comments that are like, you know, being hateful. I just like ghost them because I'm like, I don't think you want to have a conversation. I don't need to waste my time with this. But like, someone did like recently comment, and I decided to reply for whatever reason, where they were like, I've watched a few of your videos and like, you have a problem with X, Y, and Z. And I just replied, I was like, I recommend watching someone else.
But people type these things out.
They don't think we're there. They don't think we see them.
Yeah. Well, I love the comments in third person. They're like, she clearly, and I'm like, who are you talking to?
I got like one that was close, and I said, oh my gosh, I made it. I got a third person comment almost.
I don't know. This one is also a bit weird for me because I feel like, I mean, I can't speak for like influence as a whole across Booktube, but I feel like with me, I'm a little bit lucky in that I feel like I know my audience is significantly older, or like my age and a lot older. So even if I am talking about, you know, a particular book that might have something surrounding it or that sort of thing, I can still mention that book, mention how, you know, I got on with it. And then all of the comments are just a general discussion, not like, how come you didn't mention this? Or what about this? So I feel like, you know, I'm in like this very mellow kind of like echo chamber of a comment section.
Sounds nice.
That sounds nice. Yeah.
So.
Okie doke. So this kind of ties in a little bit to what we were just talking about. Do you feel like Booktube is more welcoming to certain people, or do you feel that it's generally welcoming to everyone? And I feel like I would want to like add to this question, like not necessarily to certain people, I would say also to certain types of content creator, like not necessarily the person, but also like the type of content that you are known for producing, if they're more welcoming or not as welcoming. So we want to go around again.
I mean, my first thought is to say, this is just based on my own experience. I would say yes, but it definitely depends on, you know, what you create, the subset of your Booktube that you find first, the community that you engage with. So I think in that aspect, you know, it is generally pretty welcoming. And I just remember back in like 2016, starting my channel, I never felt like, oh, you don't belong in this community, or I don't know. It just felt like a very kind of welcoming place where I could just kind of get my start. And then slowly I started finding people who read the same books as me and just surrounding myself with those. Yeah, surrounding myself with those type of, you know, similar readers and creators. And I felt very comfortable in the community. So.
How about you, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like kind of like Tori, it's one of those things where I think that you can find an audience for whatever you're doing on YouTube. It's just a matter of like people finding you. I know that some people have a problem with that, apparently, according to Reddit, that they can't find people doing certain things. But I think you can find your audience for whatever you're doing. But obviously, if you're looking at numbers, I generally think that fantasy YouTubers are usually the highest subscribed to YouTubers and probably get the most views. That's what you generally see, is like the most popular booktubers are usually fantasy readers. But I don't know if that says anything about like if people are more or less welcoming to others. I know I've seen opinions, and obviously I'm sure Izzy and Jess can speak to this more about like I've seen opinions about romance not being as welcomed into the community, but I see it a lot now, and I enjoy romance booktubers even though I don't read romance. So I don't know. I think this is a hard question for me to answer, especially because I'm smaller. So I feel like I have been welcomed because I have such a small audience. But I have seen like really aggressive comments on other people's videos. And so I don't know. I think it's harder for me to answer this question.
I actually agree with that stuff. I think it depends on a lot of the number. I feel like I'm still at a place where, you know, I'm not like massive or anything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like within that realm, it feels very welcoming.
Yeah. Also, when you get to a point where like people who don't know you and aren't regularly watching you are like clicking on your videos, and that's when I feel like you get a more wild card type comment. It might be great, or it might be somebody who like doesn't know what you're about and makes wild assumptions about you based on this one video, and you're like, who hurt you?
Because like, because I just barely hit 1K. So like for me, my audience has been people who just have been consistently watching me. So they're watching me because they like me, I hope. But like all their comments, their comments are always really nice. There's only been twice that I've ever had like a weird experience with comments, and it was the one time that I talked about the Wheel of Time on my channel, and I got a really weird influx of comments. But for the most part, people were pretty nice. They were just trying to mansplain Wheel of Time to me. And then I got one comment where I don't remember what they said, but it was kind of a passive aggressive comment. And I answered it not being passive aggressive, and they were like, "Oh, I'm just new to your channel. I don't know what you're about." And I was like, "Okay, so this is probably what people mean when they say they don't feel welcome in the community, is they get these types of comments." But I'm so small right now that like I don't experience that, so it's hard for me
to.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to these moments.
Just the day you get the third person comment, just have a drink or whatever you want to celebrate in some capacity.
I'll send you guys all a screenshot of it.
Yes, please. They're my favorite. Like I literally troll we'll go through my friends' like comments and look for them. Like everyone I know is bigger than me. I'm like, who's here today with the third person? It cracks me up.
I remember getting my first dislike. I was like, I made it. Someone disliked my video.
That's when you're famous.
Yes. I have been struggling lately. Like I'll start saying something, then it disappears. And I'm like, right, maybe I should start doing some Sudoku puzzles because my memory is shot already.
Well, here's the prompt again in case that.
There we go. Yes and no. I think in general, in general, I would say Booktube is welcoming, but there's always going to be people that aren't and have a lot of opinions. And there has been, I will say historically, that romance-specific Booktubers don't get a lot of love. And that's just a product of society in general. Always looking down on romance, even though it's the highest grossing genre every year.
You're welcome for all your fantasy books to get published.
And but I think Steph is right. For the majority of like big booktubers are mostly fantasy. Maybe like I'm trying to think. Books and Lala doesn't really read a lot of fantasy, I don't think. Yeah. But like a lot of people who have bigger channels, I think, read a lot of fantasy, and I think part of that is like fandom culture, because you can you can expound on things and think about, break down magic systems and all that.
Like booktubers like don't even like really call themselves booktubers, and they don't really do the hauls and things, and like I feel like they have like a ton of subscribers, more than fantasy, but like they're just like not even like part of Booktube.
Yeah. There's those people too. I'll see videos sometimes recommended. Like, obviously, we can't know everyone, but it'll have like 700,000 views. And I'm like, I've never heard of, who is this person? So random. So I think, like, for the most part, I mean, in general, our community is small compared to YouTube overall. But there's just always going to be those trolls, those people who are like, Yeah.
A small but vocal minority that are the worst.
Oh, so very vocal.
Yeah, very.
And then
very.
Well, I mean, like the people that like, you know, like we were saying, like they hate watch it and then they feel the need to tell you about it and how like, I'm never going to watch this and I can't believe that I had to watch 20 minutes of this. You're like, why did you watch it? But also like realistically, the majority of people who did not like the content did just click away and didn't tell you about it. It's just that like one or two that felt the need to tell you and you're like, why are you like this?
Yeah. Like, oh no, two other people disliked it, so I'm going to say it for all of us.
Although dislike is the most passive aggressive thing you can do because no one knows why you hit dislike. They'll never know why you hit dislike. Or exactly. Like, was it my face? Was it what I said? Like,
it could be my voice. I don't like it, so I understand if you don't. But you
can be that, like my mic was wonky, and you're just like a real stickler for like production quality.
The camera was slightly out of like, you know, off, and they're just like, no, absolutely not.
I think I'm cursed every single time, and I post videos about Abercrombie a lot. Every single time I film a video about Abercrombie, my camera is just ever so slightly out of focus. Always.
The ghost is haunting you. The ghost that really doesn't like him. Said none for you. So this is okay. It's weird because like anyone who like watches romance booktube knows that like in the last year and a half we've had a huge boom of new people making content who grew very quickly in like the last year, which is great. Like it's really exciting.
Romance is so fetch now.
It's I mean really though, it's weird because like I started in I don't even know, like 3 years ago almost. So like there was like a handful of us. It was, you know, like literally could count on one hand.
Pioneers.
Most of the people and no one knew who I was. It's fine. Then drama happened and then you get found. It's fine. But like, you know, we kind of just were there, I feel like, and it was interesting because you definitely I would watch people that I thought I liked and then they would shit on romance books and I was like, well, I'm unsubscribing from you and I'm walking away now because like you could not like romance. That's fine. I'm not saying that. But you could say I don't like romance books for X, Y, and Z without being like, I just don't understand why anybody likes romance books.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I don't know why you click on a video about romance books if you feel that way.
Yeah, I mean that too. And yeah, so it's been interesting. But I will say I think the most welcoming part of the community in general are other creators. Like I know it's scary when you're tiny and like you have 100 subscribers and maybe you really like this creator that has a couple thousand or something, like, but start reacting to the stories on Instagram and talk to them because like I have yet to have like, and I'm sure there are people out there that are not nice, so this is not foolproof, but I've yet to have a bad interaction with a fellow creator, like someone else who also makes booktube content, because everybody's pretty chill and we're all just like, yeah, sometimes stuff's dumb.
I mean, content creators are the ones that know how rough it can be and how much work goes into it. So
yeah, so I mean, I feel like in general the community is pretty open and welcoming. Occasional sneers about romance, I feel like, but not too bad. Not too bad anymore.
People sneer about fantasy as well.
I'm sure they do. My favorite is the sci-fi fantasy readers who then sneer at romance, and I'm like, y'all are also a niche genre. Like it's the dumbest pecking order. I'm like, calm down.
Well, right now I've been seeing all over Twitter the conversation about should adults read YA, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
again,
I'm just like, leave people alone.
I mean, it really is like the bullying.
I'm convinced there's like somebody is in charge of these conversations. They're like, timeline has been too quiet. Bring up consumerism.
Gotta bring it back.
There's an oracle behind the scenes, like sending out tweets.
Yeah, they send out an email. And they're like, somebody put it on the timeline. There's just no way this organically keeps happening again.
There's people just like to stir the pot. They just like throw stuff out there. They have no skin in the game. They're just like, fight.
Yeah.
It's actually so funny because when we were talking about like negative comments and people who want to stir things up, the only time anyone has ever tried to get in an argument with me was actually when I commented on Jess's video about something and somebody just started they decided to comment on that comment like it was for nothing. And I just was like, I put LOL, okay. It didn't make any sense.
That's my favorite though. Like, I had a guy yell at me about my shelves one time in my comments. He's like, all right, millennial. And I said, okay, boomer. I was like, okay, boomer. And that was like my reply. Like, he just went off on a millennial snowflake rant. And I said, okay, boomer.
There are really times though when it comments, like a tone is very hard to, to convey without emojis. And even then you're not sure. And there's definitely times when I've gotten comments and I'm like, I don't, if it's like a regular commenter and they are always kind of snarky, then I know their tone. But if they've never commented before and they open with that, and I'm like, are you being like sassy and you think we're like joking, or like are you mad at me? Like I don't know.
Please let me know.
Yeah, I need YouTube to allow me to reply with GIFs, please.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I have this one in my mind to send to that one.
GIF. I only speak GIF. Please.
Yes, I'm fluent.
Okay. So yeah. So we would say, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I somewhat experienced this as a fantasy booktuber, but like there is some gatekeeping. So like I feel like you could speak better on romance, but I feel like as a female who talks about fantasy, there is very dude broy gatekeeping, hence the Wheel of Time comments that you received.
That makes sense.
So like I don't know, there might be a different flavor of gatekeeping with romance, I don't know, but like and it's not horrible, but it comes up, and like I happen to be the kind of person that I'm like, go die if you treat me like that. But like I feel like if I was less like that, and I know like plenty of people take it more to heart, and that like can put you off the idea of like, well, great, I'll just never talk about this.
I very vocally talk about how I won't read a lot of really popular white fantasy books. And people get really mad at me, and I'm like, they don't like, that is not the fantasy I want to read. I want to read like just different. I don't know. That's not.
Well, you wouldn't be smart enough for it anyway.
I mean, like, so I'm actually shocked when I've said I won't read certain authors that people haven't like been in my comments screaming at me.
I'm nervous because I'm reading The Eye of the World and I'm doing a vlog for it, and it's off to I read 8 pages and I was like, ooh, I need a nap. And so I'm nervous.
Oh my God.
I was planning to read Eye of the World before the show drops, but also like so many people have been like, Lana, you're gonna hate this. And like their fans are like, don't read it because we don't want to see you hate it. And I'm just like, but I want to know what I think of it.
I would be curious to see that.
Just send us the dislike to like ratio in the vlog.
all dislike.
Girls in your comment section.
I was actually really scared to put out my video about Wheel of Time. And I mean, at the time when I put it out, I think I only had maybe 400 subscribers, and it's my most viewed video. And I'm surprised it only has 1 dislike on it, but it has a lot of mansplaining on it. So if you ever are confused about the book, like just go to my comment section.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'd be like, oh no, you didn't understand. Well, let me write you a dissertation on.
Oh, you know, it's the first book in a series. Like, unless you've read all 14, then you don't have an opinion on it.
Listen, are you gonna pay me to read all 14? Because
there was one guy who left me 4 or 5 comments, like paragraphs long, about everything that I said. Wow. And like I was just like, I don't know if you realize what you're doing right now.
I've gotten that kind of like dissertation level
just like
comment, and like they'll open with like, you're probably not even gonna read this, but, and then I'm like, why do you read it? If you think I mean, I do read it because I'm just like, wow, what did you have to say to me? But also like, if you knowingly go into this like, this is my own time I'm wasting, I'm just like, why?
If only we knew.
I think the only gatekeeping in romance is we will like burn you down and hunt you down if you tell us something is a romance and it doesn't have the happily ever after or the happy for now at the end. That is the only gatekeeping. But that's like literally the genre. That would be like, that's the genre construct. Like, it's not a romance without that. So like,
interesting.
If you try and tell us like Nicholas Sparks' romance, a lot of us will come for you. But
a premier romance, right? Or what are you talking about?
Just do not make me come. Have I almost wanted to pick up Nicholas Sparks tonight? Yes, absolutely. He also will tell you he's not romance. So
I didn't think about that.
Said he wasn't writing fantasy, and I'm like, sir, there's a dragon on the cover.
Listen, I'm just saying, it's like if I read a sci-fi and was like, why are there aliens in this? It's like reading, why are they happy at the end? This is weird.
Okie doke. I don't think we did this. Do you find you're less likely to DNF a book? I mean, do you find you're more or less likely, I would say, to DNF a book because of Booktube?
I know Leanna's answer.
Well, I mean, we're just gonna come back to me.
Booktube doesn't influence whether I DNF a book. If I'm not enjoying it, that's okay. I'm trying to get better about DNFing. Sometimes I make it a little bit too far into the book until I realize this might not be for me. And there's like literally 20% of the book left. And I'm like, well, just wasted a lot of time. So yeah, Booktube definitely doesn't influence if I DNF a book or not. So if a book is really popular, even if I'm not enjoying it, I'll just be like, I have to put this down.
I agree. I don't really DNF because of Booktube or finish because of Booktube. But I have recently learned about myself that I am very good at DNFing. I just make myself believe that I'm going to come back to the book later, and I don't. And then I unhaul that book and never read it. So I DNF a lot of books. I just don't realize it.
You're like, I'm going to come back to it. It's been 2 years.
Why is it still on my currently reading shelf? And where is it?
I have 60 currently readings. I've unhauled them all.
That's why I created a shelf on my Goodreads called "Putting This One Down for Now." When it's like not like an aggressive like DNF. It's just like I'm just like I can't do this right now, and it's cluttering up my currently reading. Just put it in. Putting this one down for now.
I need that shelf. Yeah. Me, I will say for the most part no, except if I like made it a point to announce I was going to read something, or I'm like trying to finish it for a video. Like as much as I probably would DNF Eye of the World, I'm going to finish it for this video. But for the most part, yeah, even popular or whatever, I'm like, it could be 5% in, 20, 50, 7. I'm like, no, if I don't want to finish. And sometimes like if I'm really far, like if I have 20%, then I'm gonna start skimming. But yeah, I love a DNF, a self-care. That's what it is.
Self-care.
I will DNF a book if it's gonna put me in a slump. It's not worth it. So yeah. I do not care. And I love telling why I DNF'd a book sometimes. Like it's very interesting when I'm like, yeah, it was this. Like this is why I wasn't liking. And a lot of times I do the same thing. Like I have a paused for later shelf. So like I read a book that had some really triggering eating disorder stuff in it, and I was not in the mental space for it. And I said, I want to read this, but not right now. So like it literally got like chucked onto that shelf within like 5% of the book. I was like, nope, we're not doing this. But then others I'll just like throw back on my want to read shelf. And I'm like, maybe I'll come back to you, maybe I won't. Who knows? But you're not like I was reading a book that had like really Halloween feelings, and I was like, I don't want to read this right now. Like I was like, I don't want to read it when it's 100 degrees outside. It's like, this is a book for when it cools down a little.
It's always 100 degrees where I live, so you just have to choose to believe that it's fall.
Oh my God.
I mean,
I know. I
convince myself all the time that AC
lower your thermostat.
I literally do that. I close the window so you can't see the sun, turn up the AC, put a sweater on, light a candle. Ooh.
There you go.
I had to do that. I had to do that last year because it was my first time living in Southern California. Because in Northern California, it actually has colder weather.
Yeah.
And it doesn't here in Southern California. And I was like, I don't like this.
It's fall when Target starts putting out fake pumpkins.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, in my heart, it's already fall. We've got our fall drinks.
Yep.
But it just
my house
like,
is decorated.
I need like a little more decor out still, you know, like I'm not quite there yet. I'm still like gathering my items up to put out. So I was like, we'll come back to this when the house is ready. When the skeletons have come out.
I mean, skeletons are a 24/7, 365 thing for me. It's just the pumpkin spice that makes it fall.
Yeah, that too.
Yep.
I feel like the answer is technically that I'm less likely to DNF, but I feel like it's both yes and no for me because of Booktube, I just read a whole bunch more and I pick up a whole bunch of things that are not things that are more like, let me give this a go, or like people talk about this a lot, so like maybe I'll like it. So I'm just like picking up a whole bunch of things that are like have a more riskier about like knowing my tastes. And there's just so many more books that I'm picking up that like I would like to DNF, but I'm also so much less likely to DNF because like content creator, and like I never want to have an asterisk where I'm like, maybe this gets fixed by the end, maybe this gets better by the end, maybe they explain this by the end. I want to like read the whole thing, be like I read the whole thing and it's garbage all the way through.
Yep.
Here's why.
Oh my God.
You're very like, I just want everyone to know why this was trash, so I have to finish it.
Exactly.
I'm always falling into that, like, maybe it'll get better, and then it doesn't get better.
Oh, I don't believe that it will get better. I want to be able to confidently and say 100% certainly it does not get better.
That's
See,
why
when I
keep
tell people not to
trying.
read a book, they read the book. And then I'm like, I told you not to read this book for a reason. And then they're like messaging me mad that they read. And I was like,
You're like, no,
I literally
told
said
you.
don't read it. I said don't read it.
I keep trying. I have that same, there's only one book I have that feeling for, and it is The Secret History by Donna Tartt.
Yeah.
I have tried to read that book so many times, and I still have not like DNF'd it because I want to finish it to tell people that this is terrible and it's not peak dark academia like everyone says it is, but like it's so bad.
Man, I DNF'd to that one, but that was also another one that was like on my currently reading for 65 years, and I finally was like, I can't.
I tried the physical, the audio. I tried the physical, the audio again. Audio's horrendous.
I just give a quick public service announcement that it is just, I've just heard, actually Secret History is amazing. That's a fact. It's just in. So sorry about that false reporting.
I can co-sign that false reporting.
It's one of those ones that I was like, I'm never going to read that.
Leanna.
Don't trust Jess. She hates Maggie Stiefvater too.
Leanna.
It's not that. It's just like, we get over 400 pages. It's got to be very specific authors for me to be like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, as a fantasy reader, 400 pages is like the starting point.
I know.
And see, for every like 400 page book you read, I'm reading like 5.
True, that's true.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm always like when I get discouraged when I see people like halfway through the year and I look at their like Goodreads goal and how close they are or whatever, and like they've read 800 books, and I'm like, but they're reading comic books, like not same as reading like 700 page fantasy tomes, not same.
It's not the same page count, so it is not the same. So
Yeah, but when it's like just the number of books someone's read, and I'm just like, how did you read so many books?
yeah, I have to like preface mine constantly. I'm like, listen. I read romance. Calm down. Read romance. It's okay.
Calm down.
This is normal. This is normal.
Yeah, so I guess that's that question. Did we answer this? I feel like we did.
I think we did.
I think we did.
I'm pretty sure we did.
So we'll skip it. If you want to know what we thought about this question, see the previous video. And I think this is the last. It's not the last one. I'm just kidding. Oh wait, no, because we did the next one. We did this. No, didn't we? Don't listen to me. Okay, whatever. I'm terrible at this. What expectations, pressures, etc. do you feel because of Booktube? Tori?
Every pressure that I feel from Booktube is completely my own fault. I do it to myself. There's this pressure to always feel like I need to be reading in order to be able to create something. So when I'm not reading, or if I'm feeling a little bit slumpy, or just in a general reading funk, obviously I feel like that intensity kind of build up, because it's like, oh my God, I don't have a video to talk about. I don't have, I can't share anything. So it's definitely just this like self-inflicted, all my fault kind of pressure. So that's usually the only time I feel pressure on Booktube.
Yeah, mine's pretty self-inflicted. I always feel the pressure of creating content, constantly creating content, which means that I feel like I constantly need to be reading. And actually, I was just currently in a spiral about like not reading and editing video. Yeah, it was a whole thing. But I also feel like I don't know if y'all get like this, but comparing yourself to other booktubers and then feeling really down about yourself and like noticing your own flaws a lot when you're making videos or editing them. So like a lot of my pressure I feel is because of me, because I get too in my head about things and want to be as good as the next booktuber. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
All of
Yeah.
that. All of that. Yeah, I feel the same thing with reading. And like this month I've read a lot, and it was kind of where every moment I'm like taking a break from other things. And I was like, I'm going to try to read as much and being like feeling guilty if I wanted to watch TV or do something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, I need to be reading. Because I don't read as fast as other people. And I usually, have some other hobbies, but been trying to read. And also,
hobbies.
Wait, what is this other hobby thing? I don't understand.
I'm trying to, and like, I just got some watercolor paint stuff. I'm like, anyway, but having ideas, but being like, I still have to read all these things to make this a thing, And so it mostly is the same self-inflicted, like comparing myself, like I don't read enough, I don't do enough of this type of video. And also I like to read. I also feel a pressure of like trying to keep up with new releases, but also there's a lot of backlist books I want to read that I own and that I want to borrow. And so like a new book comes out and I'm like, ooh, I don't want to buy it. But then the wait at the library is 14 weeks and everybody's talking about it. Maybe I should talk about it because those videos are getting views. But then by the time I do,
not a trendsetter.
Then I read it and I'm like, and then I do, and then I'm like, oh, I'm late. Now nobody's watching. It's a cycle.
Vicious.
Yeah. So that's that.
I think it's all self-inflicted. It's not even like that I'm like, oh no, everybody else is doing this because I don't care. It's more that like I'll be like, I want to do this video, but I gotta read these whatever books. I want to do this video and I gotta read, and I'm like, how am I supposed to read all these books? How am I supposed to read all these arcs I requested? How
am I supposed to be in all these damn book clubs that you guys make that are really cool?
I just tell my friends, love your book club, not support it. Not read it. Support you, love you.
I love that for you, but I'm not participating.
But I'm out. I can't do it. I will pop up once a year usually into somebody I'm friends with book club, like, OMG, so excited about this one, and then I'm it's like once a year occurrence. I'm just like, hi, bye. Yeah, it's that self-inflicted though, where I'm just like, oh no, I need to read these like 10 books for these 2 videos, and oh no, there's not audio.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make Alexa read them to me, or
it's so frustrating how easy it is to think of a cool idea and then be like, oh, but I have to read.
But then the execution, you're like,
I have so many video ideas like written down. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
I have so many introductions to video concepts, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
Have you ever been where you've like read a book and you want to make a video recommending this type of book, and you realize that this is the only book like it you've ever read, and you're going to find 4 more on the list?
Yep.
I have many videos video ideas like that.
I wanted to do like a if you read this, read this type of video, and I'm like, I don't have any more ideas for this video.
I know. I just went through a whole thing. I went through like a panic the other day because I was like, I don't do videos like that. I don't have these cool videos where I recommend things. I just do like these stupid vlogs. I love your
vlogs. Do not talk about them like that.
You've offended them for calling them stupid.
Recommendations.
Her yum.
I finished a book and I was like, oh my God, this book reminds me of this TV show. And I had seen someone do like recommending books based on like popular shows or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, I can only think of this one book. So sit right there. There.
And like the fall recommendation videos are piling up in my mind. And I'm like, I have to read these books first.
Yeah. I'm like, it sounds folly. I haven't read it.
I haven't read it yet. September's going to be a busy month.
It sounds like a book I would recommend, but I can't recommend it yet.
Yeah. I'm like, it's orange, it's brown.
You should do a video that is fall recommendations that I'm assuming are like fall vibes.
Like really caveat it though.
We should
all have not read these books.
Completely do that. 6 recommendations I haven't read yet, but you should.
Yeah, giving us the vibes,
or it could be
you let us know.
It could be 6 recommendations to yourself that you think are going to be fall vibes.
I would.
This is a really convoluted fall TBR that you're doing.
You gotta make it creative.
Well, she's not even gonna read it up for her TBR. She's just like, I think I would like these, but this is my actual TBR. Right here.
Yeah, because you do this video, the next week you do a TBR.
But the fun part about my channel is I don't make TBRs because I am a mood reader. Yeah.
I guess like what everybody's been saying is like, this is all self-inflicted. I mean, being on Booktube is a choice that is self-inflicted in the first place. So like anything Booktube related is self-inflicted. I definitely feel Like I'm always, if I'm ahead on one thing, that means I'm behind on another thing. So like if I'm ahead on reading, I'm behind on content creation. If I'm ahead on content creation, I'm behind on watching other people's content. If I'm ahead on watching people's other content, then like I'm behind on like reading. And like it's just, like I'm never ahead on all of things at all times. And then things that are non-booktube, I'm like, what's that? I don't have time for that. So
listen, all my hobbies have built-in reading time. I put in earbuds and do a thing, listen to a book and do another hobby. It's perfect. So it somewhat helps.
I was saying I have 3 hobbies: book reading, book buying, and talking about book reading. Book buying.
Book buying. I love it.
It is a completely separate hobby from book reading.
It is.
I didn't even think of that pressure that you brought up too about like watching other people's content, because I feel immense guilt when I'm like really behind on my friends' content.
And then every time they comment on my video, I'm like,
oh my God.
Stop watching my content because I'm behind on your video.
I'm like, shoot, let me go put this. Yeah, because like I don't willy-nilly subscribe, so I really try to make sure. And I'm like, dang it, like I've been like in a kind of creation slump and asked people, and some people are like, I watch different content, so I've been trying to watch different content, but I'm like, dang it, now I'm behind on Booktube content and live streams. So I'm like, oh.
I mean, like every kind of content that I subscribe to, even outside of Booktube, like it's all the content that like I like it, but it's usually like I'm not really a mood reader. Like I'm fine sticking to TBRs, but I am a mood watcher, and I'll just like get in a mood where like this one particular content creator, I'm just like binging, and then I'm just like over it, and then I don't watch their content for like 2 months, and like so like it's just like constantly filling out my like subscriptions feed with like Booktube and non-Booktube things, and I'm like, I like all y'all, but I'm just like not in the mood right now.
Yeah, that's literally
choose every day to watch like 5 people, like 5 videos that come up in my feed, and I watch them and I'll go comment. And then I'm good. I try to like number, like not always 5, sometimes it's more or less.
Like, realistically, I could do that, but I just always look at all of them, and I'm like, I have to do all of them, and I can't do all of them, so I'm doing none.
This is my solution to like that reaction. I was like, let me just watch at least 5 people. You know, give them
this
some
is why
love.
I started putting like check mark like tabs in longer books, because the same attitude of like I have to read this whole book or not at all, and I'm like I'm never gonna read an 800-page book in one sitting, and so I just stare at it and I'm like can't do it. But instead, if I put in like check mark points where I'm like the goal is 200 pages, the goal is 400 pages, the goal is 600 pages, and I'm like, okay, that's the goal for the day. It's not like I've accomplished nothing if I don't finish it. I accomplished this checkpoint. So I need to have that attitude with watching content, where it's not all
or
nothing. Yeah, and that's real though. When like your Booktube friends like comment on your videos and you haven't watched them in several weeks, you're just like, oh, please stop watching me.
Like, oh my bad.
Yeah.
Also, I watch YouTube on my TV a lot, and then if I have to go comment now, I have to go get my laptop and go and comment, and I'm like, you won't know that I watched it, so then it doesn't count. And I can't watch it until I can watch
go
it
back,
and comment, and then it counts.
I usually watch on my phone because I usually do it like washing dishes. I have it up or like cooking and stuff, and then I'm like, oh wait, let me dry my hands off. Comment. I'm like,
I just leave emojis. I leave emojis. People that I watch know this. Like I will just like have a bunch of videos I'll watch, and then I'll leave heart emojis.
Yeah.
And they know I watched, and it's fine. Because I don't always have a comment either. Like sometimes I'm here.
Oh, that's true.
With your stuff. Bye.
Yeah. But and then Nigel watches y'all on TV, because when I would leave Netflix on, but you know, it'll be like, are you still watching? And I feel bad with him in silence. So I watch videos from my phone and comment, but then also Nigel will watch them on the TV.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, oh, let me leave you with Steph today.
That makes me feel really good.
But also for like watching content, so like you said, you don't always have something to say, which like is a similar problem I had in college, where like my favorite professors are the ones that I never went to office hours for, because like you made everything so clear in lecture. I have 0 questions. I would love to talk to you some more, but I have no questions. I got this. And I'm like, but you're the one that I'd want to talk to. I don't have any questions. It's like same thing with like videos I love. I'm like, well, that was a great video. Like I got nothing to say other than like, great.
Again, just leave some emojis. I was here.
But then also like if it's somebody that like you are like more than a Booktube acquaintance with, somebody you talk to regularly, then it just kind of feels weird. And I'm like, to watching this video to find out what you think instead of just being like, hey, what did you think of this? Because we're friends and we're talking. I have to go watch a video to find out. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
I tell my friends, you have to watch the video. Be like, absolutely.
You don't get special treatment.
You don't get special treatment for friends.
That's what I'll be like. I'll see like a thumbnail for their wrap up, and like there's a video, like a book in their stack, and I'm like, oh, let me just go message them. Like, what did you think of that book? So those are what was the question? Pressures? Yeah. So those are the pressures that we feel. I don't remember if we did this.
I don't remember.
I think we did.
So being a booktuber different than just like watching booktube?
Yeah. Like how is being a watcher versus a
like content creator versus content consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't remember this one.
I mean, it's definitely more relaxed. So
yeah. You're not juggling creation and
just the whole creation aspect. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's just, a lot calmer being a watcher and dropping your comment and leaving, but definitely on the creation side, that's I think the biggest difference, and trying to keep things interesting and fresh, and recommendations that your audience might not have seen before or heard about. So
well, quickly, like this one made me think of back to the pressures one. Like, have you ever like not watched someone's content because you've seen the thumbnail and the video concept is, and you feel this kind of like, that is such a cool idea, and I just don't want to watch it because like that's way cooler than what I've been doing, and I don't want to see how cool that is. I'm sure it's great. Or you're just like, I don't want to see how great this is.
I feel attacked right now. I mean,
yeah.
Sometimes I hold off on watching someone's video if they are talking about a book that I want to read, haven't read yet, and I do want to talk about it. And I don't want like my thoughts to be influenced by theirs or that sort of thing. So I will hold off usually on those types of videos. But yeah, that's definitely the biggest difference. I think we talked about this in the last video, just being more hyper aware of things that are happening in the community, books that are being released. Because I feel like when I was a watcher, I don't know, I'm
voyeur.
Yeah, just like
it makes it sound real dirty.
Yeah, just voyeur, and I definitely feel like I'm exposed to a lot more books now, just always kind of being wrapped up in the community. There's always the sense of what's coming out, what's on the horizon, what everybody's reading. So there's definitely that aspect to it.
Yeah, pretty much everything Tori said, where making the content, but there's also the aspect of like trying to make friends in the book community, which can sometimes, even when you have some friends, it can still feel like you're not a part of the community. Commenting, watching stuff. That's a thing that I didn't do before, though, is I wouldn't really comment on my favorite booktubers' stuff. And now I realize how important it is. And that's the whole thing about making the content, is you start to recognize how much work goes into it, and like the things that you didn't do as a watcher, you do now, like liking and subscribing, turning on the notification. Like I would have never done that in the past because I didn't want a pop-up that said anything about who posted. But now I'm like, I know this is important, and I'd like to know when my friends post, even though I'm not going to watch it right now. I feel like that there's so much that's different about being a booktuber, and obviously you're putting yourself out there in a way where people can judge you. Whereas
when you comment on something, it's not just as like a kind of like faceless, nameless comment, or like people know who you are. They can watch your videos.
Yeah, because I was in a live not that long ago where I was just in the comments and I said something in a random.
I thought you said you weren't live.
It wasn't a live.
How can we join you there? Take me with you.
But when I commented in the chat, somebody was like, "Oh my God, Stephanie," and I didn't know who they were, and I was just like, "This is awkward. I've never experienced this feeling before." So I don't know. It's very different.
Yeah.
Jess and Izzy decided they don't want to answer this question.
I was looking for my lip balm. I don't know where I put it, but I mean, same as y'all said, with obviously less time now to watch because content creation, and the same as Steph, I had a different YouTube account. I mean, I still have it. That's like my YouTube premium one. And then when I started my channel, I made like a whole separate account. So I used to watch and subscribe to like, I've like watched Mara for a long time, or like all these people. And I'm like, I promise I'm not just now watching. And because I didn't comment also, or if I randomly commented, I didn't expect, you know, people to have time, or like if somebody even like hearted my comment, I'd be like, oh my God, they hearted my comment.
I know.
So the, you know, a downside is less time to watch other people, and then obviously the added pressure of, you know, or not pressure, well, self-imposed pressure of making videos and putting yourself out there to the internet. But I will say, like, I've had friends in the bookish community since Instagram, Steph, back in my early Bookstagram days, and then, but now in Booktube also I've made, you know, way more friends becoming a creator. So that has definitely been a positive, but it definitely, it just kind of ties in all the questions we were talking about. Like, obviously now as a creator, I feel that I need to talk about every book that I read and watch out for certain things that are going on with authors and stuff like that. So some different levels. And I feel like some people expect, I don't know, me to just know more things than I would, you know, just a whoever on Bookstagram.
You're an authority now.
And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't heard of that, or can you read this and give me your, I'm like, no, I don't. And there's a lot of people on Instagram who don't have my best interest at heart and want me to see me suffer through Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, and I'm offended. I'm like, for your entertainment? No.
I feel like you and Izzy probably have like an added pressure too, where people are constantly sending you stuff about drama.
Yeah. Yes.
Why haven't you
I do not get it as bad as Jess does, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, send it to my email and I might look at it. Yeah, or some people are like, have you? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know everything. I'm glad you think I do.
Well, I just feel like, I mean, I know you kind of allude to this in your video sometimes, Jess, about how draining it is, but I just like, I get to dip into some tea for like an hour a week when I just watch the video, but like you have to be steeped in it and sort through it all and then like put it together in a video, which is like so much longer than me just being like, oh, well, that was like a quick dip into the world of horrific drama. Off I go. My happy day.
Well, and the trauma of it sometimes too, because like, I mean, I don't know how many times in the last year I had to be like, hey, Nazi love heroes, not okay. Not okay. And then somebody in the comments was like, it's fine. Everyone deserves to be redeemed through love. And I was like, no, they don't. No. They absolutely do not.
Yeah.
You are wrong. And
the
like,
romance
you're just a hateful person. Right? And I was like, yes. If me drawing this line makes me a hateful person, yes.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Well, I was gonna say you probably get a lot of judgment about like if you even slightly have an opinion about the certain, I mean, I've seen the comments, so you get a lot of judgment about like slightly having an opinion on somebody being racist. And
I mean, like covering drama is like, then you've like, you're kind of in the position of like the CNN where you're supposed to be neutral, but then like, as we've also kind of, I think all of us have kind of seen like taking neutrality to like a ridiculous degree where you're like, you don't have to represent the opposing voice if the opposing voice is nonsense and is a tiny minority, and you're like, it's not actually journalism, like just for the sake of this schmuck over here who's like, actually, and you're like, no one cares. Don't need to cover it.
Like actually that's not helpful.
Because I sometimes try to be just like, here's what we know. Here's what we can prove. Here's what's been insinuated. But sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm so tired. It's a mixture. It's a mixed bag. It's an adventure every week or every time I post one. You know, like I'm always like, ooh, is this going to be the week? So I said the wrong. Did I say the wrong thing? Am I going to be the Twitter villain of the day this week?
Always waiting for it too. I'm like, one month, I'm just going to be my turn. It's fine. It's fine. I'm prepared.
I will not be ready.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. Like, I think the same thing everyone else said for this one. Like, we all reiterated.
I do wonder. So like, I mean, yeah, being a booktuber is different. Is again, you're like balancing watching and viewing. I also feel like when you watch content as a content creator, you both are more forgiving and more critical, or at least I am, or because you know what it does take to make a video. So like, if I see something where I'm like, oh, that's really easy to fix, like you need to fix that, like I
edit that out.
There's no excuse for that. And then other times, like when I know how much work goes into something, and if they have done something and I'm like, people think that that's no problem, like I know how hard it is to like do that what they just did, and I'm just like, oh, good job. It's like watching content, and then also like in the back of my mind where I'm like, I'm always sort of similar to like, I don't know if any of you write like creatively yourselves, but like then we're reading books, like sometimes you're not just reading the book as a reader, you're going like, oh, like actually it's an interesting way to go about that, and like I wonder if I could do something kind of like that, or like maybe that'd be a better way of doing what I've been trying to do. And like, so you're not just like consuming it and being like, oh, that was great content, you're like, oh, you know what, like I think the way they structured that video like actually like made it a lot better, and like there's no reason I can't structure mine like more like that. So you're both like watching it as like
you're always like looking for that inspiration almost.
Yeah.
It feels like
I need vlog classes from Steph, from Olivia Reads a Latte, and this other content creator it's not Booktube, but it's like lifestyle travel, because my vlogging skills are trash. Like I'm terrible. Like I'm just like I watch like your video, Steph, or Olivia. She like making coffee or tea or matcha or something. It looks so cute. And then I'll try to film myself. You would think I have never made a cup of coffee in my life. Like it looks garbage. I'm spilling shit. I don't know. So I watch people's videos and I'm like, ooh, I like that transition or how they did that. Or ooh, that is so cute how they edit. Like I'm so bad at editing.
Yeah, same.
So I definitely take notes.
You just have to make a lot of vlogs, I feel like, to get good at vlogs. That is why I started doing weeklies.
That's true of just any content too. Like you learn by doing. Like that's how you like work out the kinks. You get better at speaking, you get better at editing. Like you just start to see, and you start to see your own content more critically. Because like if I look at old videos, I'm like, new me would have cut that out, but old me like was like, it's fine, or like I need to have all of me saying this, and now I just like kill your darlings. I'm like, I basically already said that. I can cut out me saying it again. Like.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know about, like being able to speak about the books, because it's completely a skill. Because when you go into a filming slump and you haven't filmed in a long time, and you try to pick up a camera again, if you've never been in front of a camera in your entire life, it's like
it's just like it reminds me of like when people are like, oh my god, you talk about, you like to read, like what's your favorite book?
It just leaves. It's gone.
Everything you've ever
never read.
Somebody's like, do you have a recommendation for this? And I was like, I never read it. And never. What?
I was trying to plan a video based on tropes, and I'm like, do I read? I was like, what? I mean, I know tropes I like, and then I was like, looking at my shelves, looking at my Goodreads, and it just was like, I'm like, what the? I've read how many books in my lifetime, and I can't come up with one for this one trope.
Have you had comments from people who are like, it's not based on a like it's not like you talked about that book in your video. They're just like apropos of nothing, be like, I really like this one book. What can you recommend to me that's like that? And I'm like, what makes you think I've even read that one that you like? Yeah. Like I didn't say that I read this. Why do you think that I read this? I don't know.
Can you recommend? Like, no, I can't. I really can't.
Okay, let me go read that book that you just said you liked, so that I can give you recommendations based on it.
Yeah, you have to go to Goodreads and look at the related. Sorry.
Yeah, or when people comment on like much older videos of books you read, and they try to bring up like discussions about that, I'm like, I don't remember that book.
Like I read that 2 years ago. That's not happening.
A while ago.
Like, thank you.
I liked it.
No, thank you.
I had a comment recently that like, because I don't know, it's like 2 years now. I finally read The Fellowship of the Ring, and I was talking about, like what my experience with that was. And then like, I, would probably like still like to read the second and third books. And since then I have posted a video talking about reading The Two Towers. But someone commented on this video and was like saying their opinion of my problems with it. I was like, well, clearly she never went on to read the second one. I'm like, untrue. Fact check that. Because of me reading The Two Towers this year. So like, What makes you like, why they so like boldly assert that I never, like, what? Have you watched every single video I posted up?
They are the authority.
They know. They're watching you through the window.
That is a funny thing about YouTube in general, right? That people are watching your content, and so they feel like they know you. And they feel like they can insert themselves. Yeah, and they can insert themselves into your lives, and you're like, I would be happy to be your friend, but I don't know you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too, that like they're able to kind of get to know you from your content, but you don't know them from Adam. And so then when they like, they're going off of knowing you, but you're like, I don't know who you are. Like, and when they like talk to you, like I've consistently, and like they'll get like huffy and like they feel like they're entitled to like give you their, because they're like a consistent watcher, and they're like, I've usually liked this, but like I couldn't with this and whatever. I'm like, who even are you? Like,
I don't even know
you think I care?
You have like a cartoon character, you know, like I'm like, I mean, I might see you all the time, but like
sometimes I don't even see it all the time. Like they've
or it's a random
forever,
person.
or so they say, and then they leave a comment saying like, I usually like your content, but this wasn't it. And I'm just like, okay, bye. Who are you? You want my mother to be disappointed in me?
Right, I have enough disappointment from my family. Please don't add to the pile.
But like for being a booktuber versus watching booktube, like do you find this kind of ties into the pressures, but like just in general, like do you find that like you are either choosing to pick up books or choosing not to pick up books because you know you have to talk about what you read? So like you might be like, if I pick that up, like I will have to talk about it. I just like don't want to deal with that. Versus if you were just watching booktube, I saw someone talk about that and be like, oh, I want to read that. I don't know if you guys do that or experience that.
Yeah. I think Jess was talking about this, how we might feel pressure to pick up newer releases, but I think I feel a little more pressure to pick up older books and like sci-fi classics. So I can, you know,
all these books you were supposed to have read already.
Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't grow up reading like sci-fi classics or anything like that. So, you know, I'm talking about sci-fi books and everyone's like, oh, have you read this? I'm like, actually, no. So I feel like I get into this loop where I have to go back and see like, oh, where did this sci-fi trope originate from? And, you know, so that sort of thing. So I feel like I have this pressure to be caught up on like the classics.
Yeah, I feel that.
I don't feel like I avoid any book because I'm afraid to talk about it, but this isn't necessarily part of the question, but I do feel like I avoid certain books that I've seen reviews on where I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like this, so I don't want to waste my time on it. But I don't feel like I actively or consciously avoid books for the purpose of not talking about them.
Yeah. For the most part, no, unless it's like, you know, maybe a book I did want to read and then something happens with the author and maybe I'm like, gotta weigh what they did. I'm like, how much I want to, you know, read the book, kind of like that. And then, but for the most part, I'll just be like, you know, read whatever to talk about it. There have been only a couple times that I've read that I haven't talked about a book on my channel because I'm just like, I feel like this could open a can of worms I don't want to get into. That's it.
That's real.
I don't really let anybody affect my reading because I just feel like it's my reading life. I get to make a choice. I mean, obviously, try to avoid authors who are like blatantly shitty. Like, I'm not going to talk about She Who Shall Not Be Named on my channel anymore, right? Like, I may still have my books from my childhood. That's fine. I'm not going to talk about them because I don't need to. I mean, I talk about romance predominantly, so it's not a big deal. But you know,
romance was not She Who Must Not Be Named strong suit anyway.
It wasn't, right? I've got fan fiction for that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like I mean, it's more that where I'm like, did this author do anything bad? And I like I have a shelf on Goodreads called Just Say No, which is full of every author that ever behaves badly. And like, there's an author that has a book that I would never ever touch, but I've read other books by hers and I've enjoyed them for the most part. But there's like one book by her that I refuse to read because I don't agree with the hero choice, and that's fine. But like, you know, I can still read her other work and be critical. I think that's the biggest thing. Is like, I'm just like, you know, I can like this thing and also say, hey, this XYZ is a problem, and XYZ author did that, author did XYZ actions that are also a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you about not picking up authors that are problematic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm avoiding it because I feel a pressure to avoid it. It's more so because I just don't want to support that author in general.
Exactly. And that's all it is. It's not even that it's Booktube telling me not to do it or being a creator. It's more just my own moral compass.
Yeah.
I guess
I feel like there's definitely like people that, because there's tea about an author, that will make people curious now to read that book, versus if you're a content creator, then you're like basically endorsing it by picking it up and talking about it, versus a layperson who's just like, I'm just like curious. So I just like, you can't do that when you're making videos because people are like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You're using your platform irresponsibly is what I've heard before. Or like a book, like it's frustrating. Like I have a book on my shelf that I've had for years that I got at like Goodwill or something, and I planned to get around to it, but like then in the last couple of years found out the author is terrible. But it's like I still wanted to read it, but then if I talk about it, I bought it for $3 at Goodwill.
You're not going to be able to just talk about the book. You're going to have to do like a 30-minute disclaimer about like, so I got it before I knew, and then I found out. Here's what I found out. Here's how I feel about what I found out. But nevertheless, I chose to read it. This is why I chose to read it. Nevertheless, and now
I paid $3 for it.
Yeah, it's not going to be in view of my like. Yeah, so it's just like it just sits there.
And then again, I think you also are allowed to just like not share everything you read if you don't want to.
But then that's when like there's so much like we talked about, like you're behind on content creation, behind on reading, behind on everything, and you're like, I could secretly read this, but like right now I don't have time to be reading anything that it's not driving content.
It's true too. I know. I mean it's a double-edged sword.
Never ending struggles.
Literally never ending.
That we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
I know. We all make choices on the channel, and I'm really rethinking this right now.
Booktube is so fun, guys, right? It's so fun.
So much.
I feel like the one that's like actually happened to me where like I am not reading a book because of Booktube is because I had such a horrific experience with negatively reviewing Way of Kings. And like I originally said that like I would be willing. Oh, okay, bye, Jess. Like the experience was horrific because of how people reacted, and I was originally saying I would read the second one, like if people tell me that my issues are improved in the second one, or I'm just curious. Like this is just such a staple of fantasy. Everyone is like, this is the way, and I just feel such FOMO that I'm like, I would give it another go, but like because I got such a horrible response to that video. And like I talk about everything I read. So like there's no good scenario, because either I read it and I hate it, and then they're like, you're just hate reading it now. You're just doing it to crap on him all over again. Why are you out to get him? Or I end up liking it, and now they're yelling at me again, like, see, you were wrong, you dumb cow. Of course, like, the first one was brilliant. You were too dumb to realize it. See, the fifth is great. So there's just like no
this is why I will not read that book.
So I'm just like not gonna touch that series ever again.
No.
I won't read his books for a reason. That right there.
The Sanderson fans are.
Same thing.
It's funny because like they're all yelling at me because I guess they want to support the series, but all they've achieved is ensuring that I will never ever read it again. Good job, guys.
Yeah, Sanderson fans are something else.
So for Booktube, like I would probably have read Words of Radiance by now. Good job, guys.
I'm lucky my one video like talking about like my unpopular opinions about those books was also me baking, so I think that warded off the super fans or like the dude bros.
Like, what is she doing?
They're like, oh, what is that?
Balanced it out, Jess.
Yeah, because there's been, that video was, it's not a high viewed video, but and all the comments are just a lot of like constructive or agreeing, and I'm like, ugh.
I mean, you really should sift the flour before you stir it.
Probably.
All right, I think we hit all of them. That's all that's in here. So, are there any like things that we didn't touch on that like you're burning to talk about as per Booktube affecting you or not affecting you or anything like that?
No, I just want to tell the YouTube algorithm just to love me, please. to boost all of our content, okay? So we can all have a viral video. Thank you.
No, I don't want that.
Okay, never mind. Not for Izzy.
I mean, that is also a double-edged sword because again, you're gonna get crazy.
Okay,
If you
I
like,
have like a
400,000
video right
views.
now that is out of like Booktube realm, and I'm like, can you come back, please? Let's
Rein it
stop.
in.
Stop with these weird men commenting on my videos. I don't like them.
Yeah. I guess that's a positive, like, of doing tea is my audience is predominantly is like women. When I look at my analytics, like it's 96% to like 4%. Like I know some people's are like 60-40. I'm like, wow, mine's. I mean, not like women aren't mean, but I have
like, I'm getting mansplained about technology, and I want to be like, I know about technology. Thank you. I'm not an idiot. And even if you don't, like, it's fine. You don't have to know about tech. But I'm like, I'm literally reviewing like my Kindle Oasis. Like, I promise you, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. They're like, no, this is the reason your battery is draining so fast. And I'm like, no, it's just a piece of shit.
You heard it here, folks.
It is true that sometimes I see those the booktubers that are more into higher fantasy, and it's like almost a cultural thing. They're in these fandoms, and like the comments on those, wild.
It's wild.
I'm like, I don't know how any of you handle this.
Yeah, I haven't been reading a lot of fantasy this year, and I'm like trying to get back in the mode, but I also am like,
but there's romance with bakers.
I guess like we could have talked about this in the like, or I could have talked about this in the like influences and pressures. But like when I first encountering of Booktube was like the big, like the people who basically like started Booktube, you know, like Jesse the Reader and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And they predominantly read YA and they're very positive about it. So like my impression of what Booktube is you have to read YA and you have to be positive and chipper. And so like I initially felt pressure to like pick up YA, which I'm partly grateful for because like in my brain, when I saw these YA books coming out before I discovered Booktube, I was like, man, too bad that wasn't out when I was the age for it. Now I can't read it. But like, I bet I really would have liked that. And then like seeing Booktube, I was like, oh, I actually can read that now. There's no reason that I can't. So like, I like that they like made me realize that I was like, there's no reason you can't read this, even though it's YA. But also then I felt feeling the pressure that you have to read the popular YA books and that has to be what you're talking about as opposed to just reading what you like. And so then when I love them. Moved away from like reading what is the popular YA to just reading what I want to read, which is a lot of grimdark fantasy, then watching my audience like analytics shift to more male audience, which then I'm not surprised by that, but I'm also like miffed about it from like a meta perspective because I'm like, this just goes to show that adult and grimdark fantasy is predominantly still marketed towards men and that's who's picking it up. And I'm like, I'm a girl and I'm reading it, and there are plenty of like women that read it, but it's just like self-perpetuating, like it's marketed to men read it, so it's marketed to men and men read it. It's like as soon as I started talking about that, here come the dudes. Like, yes, okay.
Yeah. One thing I thought of, I guess like pressure or something is like trying to find like a balance between books that are popular. And I mean, there are some popular books that are popular that I genuinely am like, yeah, I want to read because I've enjoyed what they've written, and trying to find lesser known books. Yeah. So I could bring aware, you know, like find these little hidden gems, like bring awareness. And I'm like not doing a great job at it because I'm always behind on something. And I'm like, well, I'm going to read these and then I'm going to get to these. And so I like want to try to, you know, find lesser known books and also books that aren't centered in like the US and UK is something, and along with translated work that I like want to do, but again it's like just on my list. Things to get to.
Because then you have to have read the popular things in the West so that you can explain it as a counterpoint to this popular thing that I have read. I've read this unpopular, unknown thing, and here's how it's same or different. And so you have to read them all and both and know everything and tell everyone about it at all times.
Going back to your point about like YA and bubbly personalities, I think about this from time to time. I took a long time to commit to YouTube because I am a monotone ass bitch. And I didn't think that people would want to watch what I had to say, because I know I'm a slow talker and I get really caught up in my sentences and like cut myself off and sometimes don't make sense. So I'm always surprised when people are like, oh, your voice is really soothing. I'm like, really? I hate it.
Well, half the comments on my Way of Kings video told me that I croak and that I have too much vocal fry. So my voice is not soothing. Is what I've been told.
I got told to stop touching my hair in a video recently. That cracked me up.
And I hope you flipped your hair in response.
I did. I was just like, I'll do what I want.
Yeah, someone said I always sound like I'm out of breath, and I was like, I mean, sometimes I am, because I just came up the stairs. And
yeah, same. I kept having to run downstairs during
you like run out of breath when you talk a lot.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I tend to talk fast, and then I'm like, and I'm like, I was like, sorry. So then after that, I was like, and like I filmed a video because it was that comment, and someone was saying I talk too fast. And so I filmed a video of me trying to like talk slow. It was never saw the light of day. I was like, oh no, disgusting. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to spew words and trip over my words, because when I try to slow down it just isn't natural. Like it sounded so weird, and I was like, sorry.
I hate when people comment on like people's habits or just the way that they are, and you become so self-conscious about it. You're like, I can't change this about myself. This is just who I am.
Like, I'm sorry. Like I did a skincare video and someone said that I was moving my hands too much. And I was like,
you were doing your
yeah. They're like, wow, your hands are really distracting. You're moving. I was like,
I'm doing this stuff on the face. Like,
yeah. I'm like,
just dip my face in the wall.
Oh yes, maybe I should have been like
splash the water on your face like a Neutrogena.
Oh my gosh! Oh my
and then
god!
show the best.
Film a video like that, slow mo, just or like when the little dropper.
Oh yeah, and then you're.
Oh my god!
But you have to have like completely white background, so it looks like you're filming it from heaven.
Yes. Maybe a little light up here.
Yeah, like in general, like because we talked about this as well, that like Booktube is predominantly the personality you're subscribing to, less so the like uniqueness of the content. Again, not to say that there isn't unique content, there absolutely is, but like it's more of like a person that you vibe with, and so it doesn't really matter if they're just posting hauls. Like it's their personality you're there for. I think for that reason, like you can tell when someone is being inauthentic to themselves. And I feel like whenever I've gotten self-conscious about something, either because of comments or because I just have watched other people's content I like a lot, and I'm like, boy, I wish I was more like that. And then I'm like, I should talk more like that because that's better. And then I tried to be more like this thing that I think is better, or try not to do a thing that comments have said that I do too much, and it's just not good content anymore because I'm just like trying to be something that I'm not, and it's not natural, and I'm just and then at that point I'm like, fuck it, like whatever.
My favorite is when I'll use a friend's intro. Like I'll have been watching somebody's videos and then I won't use my normal intro and I'll use somebody else's, and I'm like, no, wait, what are you doing? I have to redo it because I'll do it, and then I was like, that's not your intro. Whose intro are you doing?
I love intros that are the same because I say them along with people. I'm like, ooh, I know this song is about to come on. I'm going to shimmy for a few seconds and then I'm going to say this.
Exactly.
I need to get me one of those. I still am very bad at introducing videos and signing off.
I feel like, my intro it's like not long at all, but my outro, like I've got to the point where like I don't even have to think. As soon as my brain switches into outro mode, I have no idea what I'm saying anymore. I know it's the exact same thing every time.
Yeah, my outro, like I feel like that when I get to outros. But yeah, I've occasionally gone to intro video and like said something that another book, and I was like, whoa, who are you? Whose channel are we making videos on right now?
I love it. Oh, Booktube.
I think that does it. We've been going for quite a while.
Yeah. Booktube is funsies, stressful.
Despite all our complaints, we clearly love it enough to keep
Yeah.
Yes. We make great people. Yay, Booktube.
Make a channel if you really want to.
You gotta take the bad with the good.
Join the chaos. Come on.
You vent it out. Now you're refreshed. Go make a video now. Feeling good.
You get good group chats where you can send the silly comments to, and you just keep going. Another day.
I can just use my favorite Patrick Rothfuss quote that I quote all the time in response to people commenting things all the time, which is, to love something because is easy. That's as easy as putting a penny in your pocket. But to love something despite, to know the flaws and love them too, that is rare and pure and perfect.
Well, ain't that a cute way to sign off this video?
So that's Booktube. To know the flaws and love them too. We know the flaws, but we love them too.
It's true.
It's very accurate.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.